the continuing crisis in Iraq and Australia's potential involvement, we chat with Guy Rundle about domestic and foreign politics, including why he thinks Tony Abbott is Australia's most powerful sycophant. From Melbourne, you're watching The World from Below. I'm Lizzie O'Shea. Immigration Minister Scott Morrison has announced a plan to release 150 children currently held in immigration detention. The children who arrived before 19th of July 2013 will be released into the community. Despite the shift in policy, hundreds of children remain in detention, both in Australia and offshore in Nauru and PNG. Human rights groups have criticised the decision to keep children detained in spite of the known risks to their physical and mental health. The minister gave evidence today before the Human Rights Commission's inquiry into children in immigration detention. 2 people have reportedly been arrested and charged with the murder of 23-year-old Reza Barati, an Iranian asylum seeker who died during riots on Manus Island in February this year. 2 men are former employees of G4S, who up until recently were contracted to provide services to manage the detention centre. Negotiations in Cairo between Israeli and Palestinian groups to end the attack on Gaza, now in its 6th week, appear to have collapsed with hostilities resuming. A deal about the status of Gaza or an extension of the ceasefire were expected outcomes, but neither has eventuated. The Israeli delegation in Egypt has returned to Jerusalem. Israeli cabinet ministers have criticised the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on the basis that they want to take further military action to end Hamas. The recent military assault on Gaza is one of the most deadly of modern times, with 2,000 Palestinians killed, the vast majority civilians. Meanwhile, back in Melbourne, pro-Palestinian protesters targeted Elbit Systems, located in Port Melbourne last week. Elbit Systems is Israel's largest military company. It markets its drones around the world as field-tested, likely meaning that they have been used on the Palestinian population under Israel's illegal occupation of Gaza. The protesters constructed a fake separation wall, replicating the over 400 kilometre separation wall that snakes through Israel and the West Bank, and placed D-locks on the company's gates. Unrest continues in Missouri over the shooting by police of Michael Brown, an unarmed African-American teenager. Brown was surrendering at the time that he was shot, according to forensic pathologists. Brown's death in the town of Ferguson has stoked nearly 2 weeks of nightly unrest. A second fatal shooting of an African-American man at the hands of police was reported in nearby St. Louis, provoking further unrest. 78 people were arrested in clashes with protesters on Sunday night and Monday morning, despite the presence of National Guard troops. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has said in a press conference that he is set to leave the Ecuadorian embassy in London at some point soon. Assange has been confined to the embassy for over 2 years without charge and is reportedly suffering health problems.
It is an environment in which any healthy person would find themselves soon enough with certain difficulties.
Protesters around Tasmania and on the mainland have demonstrated against proposed anti-protest legislation to be put before the Tasmanian Senate. The proposed laws will allow police to issue on-the-spot fines and mandatory jail sentences for people who trespass on workplaces. The bill follows similar anti-protest laws passed in Victoria early this year. Green groups have led the opposition to the bill, joined by Aboriginal activists and other community organisations. And those are the stories we've been following this week on The World from Below. Coming up after the break, we chat with our guest, writer Guy Rundle.